Look at a clock. Right now, what do you see? 12 hours. Why 12? Why not 10? We have 10 fingers. Plus, we use 60 minutes, 60 seconds. It makes no logical sense. But to find out why, we have to go back, way, way back, to ancient Egypt. The Egyptians wanted to keep track of their day, so they looked at the sun, and they invented the sundial. They split the daylight into 10 parts, a perfect base 10 system. But twilight was a problem. The sun doesn't just pop up, it takes time to rise and set. So they added 2 extra hours, one for the morning and one for the evening. This made 12 hours of daylight. But what about the night? Sundials do not work in the dark, so the Egyptians looked at the stars. They tracked special star clusters. These were called deacons. They watched them cross the night sky. Exactly 12 of these groups rose each night, so the night got 12 hours too. 12 hours for the day, 12 hours for the night. That makes 24 hours in a day. But there was a massive flaw. An Egyptian hour was not a fixed length of time. Summer days had extremely long hours. Winter days had very short hours. To fix this, we have to travel to Babylon. Welcome to ancient Babylon. These people loved math, but they did not count to 10. They used base 60. Why 60? 60 is a mathematical super number. It is perfectly divisible. You can divide it by 2, you can divide it by 3, or 4, 5, and 6. Try doing that with 10. 10 is terrible for fractions. 60 made ancient math easy, especially for mapping the circular sky, which is exactly how we got our minutes. The sky looks like a giant dome. The stars rotate in a massive circle. Babylonians split this circle into 360 degrees. Why 360? Because 60 fits perfectly into it 6 times. Next, the ancient Greeks arrived. They loved this Babylonian math and applied it to the whole planet. An astronomer named Hipparchus drew a grid. He split the Earth into 360 degrees. Then he split each degree into 60 parts. These were called the first minute parts. The very first minutes. He did the same thing with seconds. But everyday time was still a mess. Astronomers had perfect mathematical maps, but everyday clocks were terrible. People tried using water clocks, just water dripping slowly from a bowl. But water pressure constantly changes, or the water just freezes solid. Hourglasses weren't much better. The sand gets clumped and stuck. Humanity needed a true mechanical design, a machine that could count perfectly. This was the birth of true horology. Monks invented the escapement gear, a mechanism that locks and releases energy, one tooth at a time. Finally, time was a machine. But early mechanical clocks were highly inaccurate. They would lose hours every single day. You had to reset them using a sundial. Then, a Dutch scientist had a breakthrough. Christian Huygens invented the pendulum clock, a swinging weight that keeps a perfect, steady beat. Suddenly, clocks were accurate to the minute, but pendulums only work if they stand perfectly still. Put a pendulum clock on a rocky ship, and it completely stops working. Sailors needed precise time to navigate the oceans. Without a working clock, ships got hopelessly lost. Enter the marine chronometer, a brilliant spring-driven clock that didn't need a pendulum. The marine chronometer changed the world, but it was heavy and expensive. People wanted time in their pockets, so engineers shrank the springs, and the pocket watch was born. Suddenly, everyone had their own personal time. But pocket watches were incredibly fragile, and they were mostly just for the rich. Then came a massive, deadly new problem: trains. Before trains, every town used its own local sun time. Noon in New York was not noon in Boston, which was fine when you traveled by horse. But trains move incredibly fast. If 2 towns had different clocks, a train schedule was basically useless. 2 trains could end up on the exact same track. Boom! To stop the crashes, the railroad company stepped in. They divided the map into massive vertical slices, time zones. But pocket watches had a fatal flaw. You had to reach into your pocket every single time. Then came World War I. Soldiers were stuck in muddy trenches. They couldn't drop their rifles, but timing was life or death. So they grabbed their pocket watches, soldered metal wire to the edges, and strapped them to their wrists. The trench watch was born. Wristwatches used to be fragile jewelry. Now they were military tools. After the war, everyone wanted one. Brands built watches for every adventure. Rugged dive watches for the ocean, pilot watches for the sky. Mechanical gears ruled the world, powered entirely by a wound spring. No batteries, no electricity. But in the 1970s, everything changed. This was the quartz crisis. Quartz is a special crystal. Shock it with electricity, and it vibrates perfectly, exactly 32,668 times a second. It doesn't need complex springs, just a tiny, cheap battery. Quartz watches were flawlessly accurate. Mechanical watches became obsolete. Historic factories went bankrupt. It looked like the end of horology. But people realized something important. A quartz watch just ticks. Tick, tick. A mechanical watch sweeps smoothly. It has a beating heart. It feels alive. Today, we use phones for exact time. We wear classic watches for the engineering. A tiny, perfect machine on your wrist.